Alrighty, folks, I'd like to react to some firings at BiggerPockets. Now, these firings occurred a little bit over a year ago, but we finally got the video that we were all hungry for. We got the spilled tea, to steal a quote from Rob Abasola. This obviously is a video posted on Rob Ilt's channel. It is with David Green and Rob Abasola talking about why they were fired from BiggerPockets. Guys, I know all three of us have watched it, at least the majority of it. So, Matt, I'll go to you first. What was your takeaway from David and Rob's discussion on why they were fired from BiggerPockets?
So it's interesting because you wonder, like, I think that they believe that they were a lot popular than they were. The fact of the matter is that their numbers on a lot of videos are almost exactly the same as what they were when those guys were on the show. Mm-hmm. Certainly for David. Okay. And so I think Dave's done a good job, kind of taking that seat, taking that over. I think that the issue is that did they fire them or did they fire their lack of efficacy on their approach? Because their approaches don't work in this market. They said it in the video. Their approaches basically work in uptrending markets. Well, that's kind of hard to find because the real estate market doesn't always go up. And so I think what's most interesting is, the idea that, Chad Carson, your strategy, Dion's, mine, all those strategies work all the time. They work all the time. It's just a matter of maybe it's the market, maybe it's a slight shift here, a slight shift there, but in down markets it works, in up markets it works. Yeah. And that's the kind of strategy that you typically want to have. You don't want to have a feast or famine strategy because that can get you got, and so it's not a discredit to them. They found the niche, they rode the niche hard, they got great results, but that's in an up market. And so there are a lot fewer losers in an up market. There's a lot more losers in a down market, obviously, but the ones who typically have the most bulletproof strategy and the ones that win the most very often are the ones that know what to do in a down or flat market. It's not the ones that know what to do in an up market.
Yeah, it put a smile on my face to hear Rob. I think Rob did it both times. Rob gave kudos to Coach Carson, the small and mighty investor. And then
Agreed.
a couple of minutes later, they talked about one rental at a time being the right strategy for the market we're in. Didn't give me credit, but thank you for quoting, one rental at a time. That was pretty awesome. But what was interesting to me, because again, I've unfortunately had to lay off people in my life, right?
Sure.
And
sure.
I've been a part of acquisitions and had to lay off people at the incoming company. And, when I think about the private equity, the second round of private equity for BiggerPockets, again, I have no details, but just knowing what I lived through, they were probably looking at a couple of things. One was they wanted to reduce key man risk. So what does that mean? I think one of the things BiggerPockets learned was losing Brandon Turner really hurt. Really hurt.
Sure.
And, for a lot of people don't know Josh Dorkin, right? The founder of BiggerPockets. They know Brandon Turner, right? Brandon Turner probably at the time arguably was as big or bigger than BP, right? In that world. And that's a huge key man risk because at some point, Brandon has now said this, he wanted more control and he wanted to do it on his own. And that's not a good look for BP. So I think one of the things that private equity was looking at was David Green, who had the connection to Brandon being kind of that key man risk, and then Rob being, that next key man risk. And I think private equity is like, we can't do this. We need to have employees in the seats. And I think that was the big change because near as I can tell, David and Rob were not employees. They may have been 1099s. They were paid somehow, but they weren't employees of BP. And that was the big change with, the new person in the seat running the podcast is they are an employee of BiggerPockets. That's one thing. Dion, what were some of your early takeaways?
So anytime I talk about BiggerPockets, I think, oh, this is the thing that's going to make them never use me again for anything. So I'm always a little careful, but I want to be transparent because I don't work for them. I'm not an employee of BiggerPockets. I've been a teaching assistant, which is you get a stipend to be a teaching assistant. So I'm not a W-2 employee or anything. We were all just at the BiggerPockets event in Vegas. Zuber, you had a stage presentation. I had a stage presentation.
You had a keynote presentation. Come on.
Right. So we're really, I'm happy to work in the community because they help people. Like they're the part of the community that helps people. And if there's a couple of things to go through. First is reacting to the video from Rob and Dave. And apparently when I say Rob's channel's name, I offend people because I don't say it right. I say Robuild. I always thought that's what it was. I didn't know his name was Rob Abasolo until he went to BiggerPockets, even though I was watching his content before that when he used to walk on trails. His thing was he would walk and talk his video about Airbnb and tiny homes in Joshua Tree, California, like way before BiggerPockets. So I'm a fan. So I mean no disrespect if I'm saying his name wrong, but they mentioned a few things that I really liked in their video. They said they talked about topics that were dependent on the market.
Yeah.
And the one rental at a time strategy works in all markets. Coach Carson's Small and Mighty works in all markets. And then Dave clarified with some of the other strategies perform better in the right market, which is accurate.
Correct. Oh, sure.
But we don't all have the crystal ball on how long that's going to last or when the right market hits, or we usually might know, hey, last year was the perfect market for this strategy that I could have been doing, right? So they said that. And then when it comes to BiggerPockets, they had the key man thing, the problem that the host could have went out and started their own thing. They had to be careful with that. When they were bought by corporate looked at their business model, and this is just my opinion. This is not like insider knowledge. It's just my opinion. They had one channel getting a ton of views. The one YouTube channel was BiggerPockets Money. The Jay Scott one that he moved away and did something else. The Real Estate Rookie and the BiggerPockets one. And they thought if that channel gets hacked, if that channel gets demonetized, our business is impacted. So one of the things that really destroyed the views for BiggerPockets was a smart move of putting them on their own channels. That took their views from hundreds of thousands per video to tens of thousands if they get a good video. And so that was it was a logical move to make to diversify the business, but it really hurt them. And then where the flaw in BiggerPockets, and this is why I hate to say this because you're pointing out a flaw in the business that has us come on and talk sometimes. People really like two people interviewing one person who that person reached financial freedom and they're going to share something new. They got hundreds of thousands of views on every video like that for around a decade.
Yeah.
And the idea is when it comes to this kind of stuff is you give away the secret, you sell the how-to.
Correct.
Right? You go, you can reach financial freedom from an average position and it'll take about this long. That's the secret. It's possible. Almost anybody can do this. Here's the how-to. That's behind a paywall. They sell their courses. They sell their coaching. It's a great business model. Worked for a decade. What the corporate did is they thought, let's give away the how-to. That's what my channel is for. My channel and Matt's channel and all the stuff is we're going like, here's how I screen tenants. Here's how I do a rehab. Here's how Matt does a kitchen, how I learned to do a kitchen from Matt. Like that kind of content goes out there. We don't have hundreds of thousands of views per video. We don't have a business model based on making money off of YouTube, but BiggerPockets did. And too much of their content for the last 2 years has been the hosts educating the audience. And that's not why people tuned into BiggerPockets. Everyone tuned in to see who's this Michael Zuber guy. Let's get an episode with Michael Zuber on there on BiggerPockets and find out how one rental at a time grew and what can we learn from him. And then let's go and interview Coach Carson. And then let's go and find who's the guy that just retired, Kyle
Dorn.
Yep. He just retired. Put him on BiggerPockets. Have everybody talk to that. People don't tune in to listen to David Green's Green Hour or whatever it was. They'll go to David Green's channel for that and he'll get 10,000 views, but he won't get hundreds like they would on BiggerPockets. So my theory is the shift was they went away from what worked, and it's called the McDonald's theory. This is something I learned with the trucking school. So in the 90s, McDonald's was known for the Big Mac, and they were the biggest fast food chain, period. And then they said McRib, salads, chicken sandwich, all these other things. Stocks tanked. They had about a 5-year period where they had big numbers on number of branches, but they weren't making as much money. Subway passed them up in a lot of things. And then around 2006 or so, they said, nope, the Big Mac needs its own jingle. We'll focus on the Big Mac. We are the Big Mac. We're the hamburger McDonald's, doing just fine. So the Big Mac theory is most people start to grow, then think, oh, we're really good at this. Let's be good at all these other things. BiggerPockets is, I'm not saying they're not good, but I think it's a mistake to try to teach all of this stuff instead of share the information from investors who have all different kinds of backgrounds so that the viewer can relate, who reach the financial freedom that the viewer wants. And if they get back to that, which is what I think they're trying to do, why they had us talk.
Yeah. It's interesting because one of the things that, when I looked at what, the change in BiggerPockets thing, again, I go way back, right? I go back to I think I was like interview 67 with Josh Dorkin way back in the day. And I think about the kind of evolution. One of the things that I thought corporate, and again, I know nothing, right? Was trying to de-risk, frankly, lawsuits, right? One of the things that you have to be at least cautious of is, you bring in all these great stories of 15-year-olds who have 5,000 units and, all of those kinds of things. And then your audience tries to, duplicate and they blow up. And I'd be curious if we gave truth serum to the powers that be, if an attorney or a series of attorneys and lawyers basically said, thou shalt not do that because of this or that risk. Thus, they went to the education route. I wonder if there's any validity in that kind of just overly concerned, because they're a monster, right? They're the pinnacle of the pinnacle for real estate. And being the guy at the top of the hill, you got to de-risk it sometimes, I would think. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think that, you and I have run enough businesses. Dion ran his business. Like, we've run enough businesses to know that there is the, what I like to refer to as the bullshit to money ratio, and it's like, okay, what does this look like? But I think the other thing too is that, as you sit there and evaluate anything, right? We've done layoffs where we've laid off top performers or had to lay off potential top performers. If the top performer was still a top performer, I would do everything I could to keep them, because I didn't care that they made more money than anybody else, because they were worth more money than anybody else. And it meant that they did 3 seats worth of work and I only had to pay 1.5 people, and that 1.5 people was the same people. Right. So, I don't know David and Rob's experience in corporate America other than this. But, when you're in the performance seat, it doesn't matter what your number is. It only matters how much you produce and then how much of that you get to keep. That's all. So if they had 1 million views an episode, BP and that venture fund, they would have been more than happy to write a big fat ass check. But if the numbers aren't there, they're not willing to write that big check. The two are directly correlated. And so I don't know what the decision is, but it could be de-risking, could be a lot of things. I think what BiggerPockets did great. I think what Brandon did great. And I think what they're returning back to is becoming an aggregate of every story out there to make sure that people can learn from the type of people that they want to learn from. Yeah. Some people learn really well from Dion because he's a great teacher. Some people really learn well from me. Some really learn well from you. What the difference is there is that they want to cast, I think, a broader net that's more appealing, that people say, I might not be a Dion guy, I might not be a lumberjack guy, but I'm definitely a Mike guy, and I know I can learn some stuff from them. I think they got away from being the greatest aggregator of real estate investment talent on the on all of YouTube. And I think that's what's changed. I think that's what they're shifting back to. Nice. And I think that Dave Meyer probably recognizes that. He's an investor. He does well, but he was along for a lot of those years. And to Dion's point, I think that people learn from people, and some people will learn great from Dave, but it's about who they can bring on and their stories, what their experiences are that are going to impact people, that's going to take BiggerPockets with rocket fuel to the next generation. Yeah. Dion?
I saved this towards the end of the video because like less than 60% of the people that start a video like this make it this far in. So this is kind of a gift for the people who made it this far in the video. My favorite statement from the Dave and Rob video was Rob offered to keynote the event. And he said in the video, he said, instead of letting me keynote, which I offered to do, they went down the list of people who invest and they got all the way down here to the bottom to this nobody. And they had him keynote. Now, initial reaction, you're like, oh, he just called me a nobody. But in reality, Matt pointed it out. That's exactly what they did. They didn't want to go, who's our biggest personality that everybody knows? Let's have him keynote. They see this person every week or 2 or 3 times a week in every episode. They wanted, who does the average viewer think they could be? Can they be a single parent? Yes. Can they be a laid off cop? Yes. Can they have a small portfolio that sets them free? Yes. Can they do that and then go and buy hundreds of units and do all this other stuff and get into all this fancy different strategies out there? Sure. But they could relate to the nobody. And I was really glad to be a nobody in this situation.
Well, shame on you, Rob. That's not cool. But
he did not mean it as an insult. It wasn't. It was literally, he was defining it as, I'm not a big person on social media.
All right. All right. Well, you took it well. I don't know that I would. I would not have had a. Yeah, I would not have taken it that well. The big thing that I took away from it, again, this is just what happens when private equity gets involved. And again, I was at private companies and I've seen this up close and personal. Is when I heard Rob and Dave talk about what their process used to be like. Those two would meet. They'd talk for 5 minutes. They would do a show. And then they would turn it over to some part-time editor who would clean it up and, do the B-roll and blah, blah, blah. And it worked. Then you get corporate involved and suddenly the production team is bigger than the talent team. And that just creates all kinds of power dynamics. It probably creates some back channel nonsense in politics back to corporate because of this, this team versus talent. And I could see how that would be, not a fun environment to live in. I don't think I would enjoy that at all. What do you think, Matt?
I think in the next 3 years, we'll find out exactly how talented BiggerPockets is. I think their best years are in front of them, not behind them. I think they're going to have explosive growth about making it about the people with the stories. Mm-hmm. And instead of jackass talking heads that don't know who other investors are. Because I see a lot of people out there that aren't mortgage brokers, that aren't real estate agents, that aren't tiny home builders, making a lot more money than those guys. At least 2 of them are here on this channel. So, I don't take kindly. I can appreciate that Dion's nice. I don't take kindly to when people, call somebody that's clearly helped literally thousands of people invest when they call that person a nobody, because quite frankly, if you were doing their strategy, you'd be in up shit's creek. It wouldn't be very fun right now. And the fact of the matter is that this is a community, and even a broken clock's right twice a day. Yeah. And so when you can do a strategy in a down or flat market, when you can do a strategy no matter what the market is, because you understand fundamentals of how to find a good deal, you understand the fundamentals of how to manage the asset moving forward. All the other stuff is just color and noise. And so, we'll see what their next grifting trick pony is the next time that they jump on. But, let's see how the real estate agents and the mortgage brokering and tiny homes, let's see how all that stuff, goes for them for the next 3 to 5 years, because I expect BiggerPockets will probably double in size because they got back to their roots of what made them grow really quickly. And I think that that's going to be a much better service to the real estate investor market than what they were offering previous to Dave taking over this newest iteration.
Yeah, I think as the 3 of us really do care about the community, we want to see generations impacted by real estate and wealth creation. I think we should all hope that BiggerPockets is double what it is today. They are the pinnacle. I don't think any of us want to see BiggerPockets fall off and stop serving, the world. So again, they've truly got something. It sounds like they've made an important pivot. All 3 of us agree on that. And we all wish them the best. Dion, where can they find you and wrap us up?
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. And the billions of views that YouTube gets and the hundreds of thousands that we want, BiggerPockets is not our competition. I want to work just as hard to make all of us succeed as I do as them succeed because of the people that are helped. And ironically, during this, I get a text from Justin Canberra going, hey, this is the video from Dave and Rob. Did you notice the most important part? Millennial Mike is the intro.
Yeah,
Like,
I saw that.
not only is that really cool, what it does is it admits that David Green watches Millennial Mike's channel, because several years ago we did the REI Avengers thumbnail. 2 weeks later, the Green team had the REI Avengers thing. And so for years we've gone, they watched Mike's content for ideas for videos, which is not bad. It's what YouTube's for, is to go, this is what people are talking about. Let's see what that's going about. But yeah, it was great to watch on Rob's channel, Millennial Mike do the intro to their video of them getting fired from BP.
That was pretty cool. Matt, closing thoughts where they can find you?
Yeah, I mean, BiggerPockets has returned back to their original strategy that helped them get where they are today, which is dominate. And that is, sharing the stories of investors that are everyday people that don't have to turn this into a career. It's something that everyone can do. I built my entire portfolio, or 95% of my portfolio, when I had a 70-hour-a-week job.
Yep.
You built a majority of your portfolio when you had a 70-hour-a-week job. Dion did exactly the same. I mean, he didn't really want to work 70 hours, but when he was the CEO of a company, that's when he built a majority of his. That's when he did the most deals that he's done. So this is something that you don't have to. You don't need to run away from your job. What you need to do is make sure that you're on solid footing, and that you get to retire earlier, because every year that you double work, i.e. your job and real estate, is a year that you don't have to work at the end of your life. And so that's the accelerator. So I'm excited. I'm excited for what the market's going to bring. And quite frankly, I think we could all do with fewer hosts that have strategies that only work in up markets. But you can find me Thursday nights at 9 p.m. answering anybody's questions on, because you know what? Shit still breaks in a down market. You just need to find a way to fix it in the least expensive way.
Awesome, guys. Thank you very much for this again. Had a lot of fun watching the video. Always love talking with you guys. We are helping folks, and all three of us want to see BP win. So let's help them if we can. Thanks, guys. Take care. Later.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.